This is where recollection of the past takes on decidedly hushed tones. History, bound in leather, packaged in volumes, and giving off that unmistakable odor of a kind of reverential mustiness. That is, until you open up one of these massive volumes and look at the printed word, which is never more possible than in this setting. And you see this rather thin headline to a column. The trial tie for the Football Association Cup, Queen's Park against Clydesdale. Well, it looks very humble at the moment, but it was the beginning of a tradition. This was the very first Scottish Cup final. And as soon as you read that column, you realize that even in the heart of a library, you cannot keep out the traditional clamour of competition.
One up in record time, Rangers go all out to clinch the cup, with Willie Thornton, number 9, the brain in that fast-moving forward line.
What a day for Clyde as captain Tommy Anderson holds aloft the cup, which his team have wrested from Celtic, the previous holders.
Corner for Celtic. It's a good win. It's a goal! A goal by McNeil! And it's there for Styles getting the final touch. Celtic wanted the attack in as Kenny Dalglish gets that beautifully set up for him. It's a neat chip, it must be! Paul Wilson! And there it is, yes! Mark McGee does it! 2-1.
1874, that was when the first Scottish Cup final was played. It was an age when people were beginning to conjecture about the stamina of the then Prime Minister, Mr. Gladstone, and indeed in a rather portentous editorial just across from the first report on the Scottish Cup final, they began to wonder whether the old man could last the pace as a Prime Minister and whether he should give up or not. Probably gossip that was overshadowing the infant, the Scottish Cup final. Now, the Scottish Cup, of course, had been established and organised the previous year. On the 13th of March, 1873, 8 clubs got together and organised the Scottish Football Association. And the principal competition, of course, the Scottish Cup.
The first winners, the men of Queen's Park, seem now to be looking straight out disapprovingly at this present age of vulgar professionalism. Their Corinthian rectitude seemed then quite inviolate. Vale of Leven belonged to the same tradition, holding professionalism at bay for 19 years, and they also had the audacity to become the first Scottish team to beat Queen's Park. When they won the Cup in 1877, they turned on the Smollett Fountain in Alexandria. They did so 3 times. The first winner's medal, it looks more like an award for service at Balaclava than a football match. Now, teams from the West had dominated the first decade of the Cup, but with Hibs, then Hearts winning, the boundaries widened, and so did the adjectives, for the press were now an inseparable part of the fabric, and forever after, players and managers alike, whether they would admit it or not, would look for those fringe benefits called good reports. And the contemporary reporters remained admirably sanguine about the encroachment of rugby into Hampden. It was too early business to be called sacrilege.
Whenever I visit an ancient battlefield, I'm always impressed by the kind of accentuated serenity of the place. Well, this was a battlefield. This is where one of the most famous massacres of all time took place. You see, on the 12th of September, 1885, these gentlemen, Broth by name, got together to beat Aberdeen-born Accord in the first round of the Scottish Cup by a world record-breaking score of 36 goals to 0. And this gentleman, John Petrie by name, shoemaker by trade, scored 13 goals in a game whose half-time score was 15-0. They're very proud of that record up here, but they must have shivered in apprehension when they realized what was happening in the first round of the Scottish Cup this very season, not far away from another famous battlefield.
Stirling. The beginning of our 1985 trail to Hampden. We'll follow the winners to the end. The castle and monument that day are nodding terms with the clouds, and Anfield Park advertising itself in the gloom. Selkirk have come from the borders in a borrowed bus, not just to win a cup game, but to authenticate themselves. Coming from an area where they tend to throw the ball from one to another, the Selkirk football team might seem to be a minority group seeking asylum. The goalkeeper's name is Richard Taylor. Fame, in an unexpected form, is just around the corner. Their nerves neutralize the presence of the cameras. Their apprehension is really unforced. At just about the same time, feet are clattering down tunnels all over the country. But if you had to ask the average man in the street, He probably couldn't tell you who was playing at Anfield that day. They would later, though. Nobody got really excited about the first goal, but sometimes events can go skidding out of control, and when they do, then the quality of mercy can not only be strained, but can become positively deformed. Even the traffic of supporters is one way. Might have stopped here, but Rule 7 of Association Football, the duration of the game, is quite explicit. The duration shall be 2 equal periods of 45 minutes unless otherwise mutually agreed upon. Alas, Albion and Celtic were passing by each other too quickly to call a powwow on how to call the whole thing off, and the players lost count. Final tally is 20, a score difficult to bear, impossible to hide. And 252 souls have stayed to the end to watch, perhaps even more. But Jackson Coburn, the Selkirk player-manager, faces us, his dignity unimpaired.
Well, yes, I'm obviously very disappointed, but as you can see, we're not too down at the moment. Two vodkas will bring us back to life later. Must have a word for the goalkeeper. He had a wee sticky spell last week. But the score seems daft, 20-0, but if he hadn't been playing as well, it could have been 30.
Cowdenbeath have had a good record this year in the League Cup as it stands, you know. So we've played them in the league already once this year, and we drew 2 each with them over there. So that can go either way. Hoping it'll go Stirling way anyway.
The trail now leads from Stirling to Cowdenbeath. Both areas painfully aware of the effects of the miners' strike, which shows at that time no abating. Football used to be the most popular antidote to the privations of dangerous working life, and great players used to emerge from these parts with coal dust under their fingernails and gold in their toes. Now, reflecting the times, football has a struggle for survival. This is the 21st goal without reply by Stirling in the cup. But that rich vein they thought they had struck is about to be seen as fool's gold. Cowdenbeath take umbrage and retaliate. A wintry second half. Hypothermia lurks on the terracings. The sky barely distinguishable from the mud underfoot, and goals seem eminently avoidable. Then, only for those with 20/20 vision, a goal is seen. Cowdenbeath are through. And nowadays, they don't have the decency to allow you to finish your bath before they make the draw for the next round.
Dundee United versus number 20.
Birmingham, there's a good game again. Hibs against Dundee United at Tannadice.
Number 10. Versus number 31.
St Mirren.
They certainly don't lack confidence because they've already beaten St Mirren in the League Cup. In 1921, there was a miners' strike too, but no BBC. They used pigeons sometimes to carry the news, and when that year's final went to Celtic Park, the name that clung to the legs as they fluttered away from the ground was that of Blair of Partick Thistle, who scored the only goal against Rangers to take the cup to Firhill. Now Rangers, whilst winning everything else, simply couldn't win the cup in those days. Then, a tall, straight-backed young man came to Ibrox from Airdrie. And as Bob McPhail recalls, he learned a lot from playing in a winning cup final Airdrie side.
And I felt overawed because I was playing with the great Hugh Gallagher and Willie Russell, Jock Ewart, and one of the outside right, old Jimmy Reid, who could have been my father.
Bob has loaned the rich harvest of his medals to Rangers. The display contains 7 Cup winners' medals. He reaped this during one of the most famous period for Rangers, doing the treble between 1934 and 36, and lifting the cup 6 times between 1928 and the war. And like many of his peers, he certainly had his cup final superstitions.
I had this, that I always went out last. I don't know why. I never fancied going out first, getting all the cheers and all the rest of it, because well, it may have been shyness, and it may have been that the same lot would have been ridiculing you just 10 minutes after if you missed a goal. Yeah. I always wanted to go out last.
Tradition of Rangers was such that you had to be a Ranger off the field as well as on the field. Well, how far was this taken, this discipline?
To the church.
In what sense?
In this sense that there was an old man in my church, the Boric Church in Barhead, and he seemed to be always in contact with Mr. Struth, and if I wasn't at church in the morning, Mr. Struth could tell me, "You weren't at church yesterday? Why?" And if I said to him, "How could I be at church if I was in here having an injury attended to?" "Oh, get away, get away."
Did that all have an effect on Rangers players?
Yes, oh yes, oh yes. Mr. Struth insisted on us all going nicely dressed. Not flashily dressed, nicely dressed. He had black shoes, socks, blue suit, blue nap coat. I don't know, you'll be able to go back that time too. With a velvet collar and bowler hat.
Even to a cup final at Hampden?
To every game.
The Evening Times, Glasgow, Saturday, April 24th, 1937. The Scottish Cup result of that day, Celtic 2, Aberdeen 1. Nothing exceptional about that in its own right, except it was a very special day. Because when you look at the newspaper coverage, and that 2-page spread, and that vast crowd in these photographs, one little paragraph fascinates me, which reads, "There was lots of room at 2:30, the 100,000 being exceeded, and while it was impossible that last week's figures would be reached, it looked as if the final record of 118,000 would be surpassed. Not only was it surpassed, it was demolished. It was 146,433 people turned out, almost the population of a sizable city. And that is a club record for British football that has stood to this day." One wonders how the players reacted. Well, I think they were probably more subdued in their celebrations than they are nowadays. There, for example, the Celtic players with a cup after the game. But there was one very special player there, a man who holds a record at having played in finals in the north of Ireland, the south of Ireland, in England and in Scotland. Medals he treasures to this day. You see, when I look back at old pictures of 1937 and the cup final then, Jimmy, I sometimes find it difficult to envisage a crowd of over 147,000?
We were never expecting that crowd like that. And it's only we realised it when we were going running around the park. It was just like going through that tunnel. It was just like a thunder, you know.
Well, what did you do on that particular day? Can you remember that?
The Saturday before I just travelled down to Glasgow and met about 12 o'clock at the bank restaurant. And then we were taken there from there with a police escort, you know, on the bus and that. It was the same coming back. I mean, we could hardly get back with the crowd. The
manager at the time was?
Mary.
Now, what did he say to you before the game? I mean, did he say anything at all that was to inspire you?
No, he did not. It was one of these kind of men who just come in and just say all the best boys. He'll let you do the thing. And then after it, I mean, it was the same after the game. We'd hardly shake hands with him. We'd just say, that was very good.
Unemotional?
It was the matter. You know, I went, even when the cup final, when that Scotland goes against the Rangers, in the Charity Cup final, I come in, and I needed my something to pass me and whatnot. He just passed me. He said, don't let that go to your head.
He never really did. Jimmy went to Wembley and won a medal with Manchester United in 1948. But was it a grander experience than Hampden?
Well, the atmosphere is different up there, you know. I mean, up at Wembley, it's first class and whatnot. But I mean, when I was at Hampden, the thing is, if you're a Celtic player or a Rangers player, an Old Firm player, you think it's the greatest thing in the world is to put on that jersey and go out in there and win cups for your club.
Celtic against Aberdeen, 1937. This is the era when spot the ball seemed to have been invented. That is Celtic scoring. Film coverage was becoming more comprehensive but still elusive. What it does convey in its own fragmentary way is the almost overpowering sense of multitudes that nowadays seems almost incomprehensible to us. Aberdeen equalising, the score 1-1. What you're looking at now is something of an antique and has to be explained to the unaccustomed eye. It's a cue to get into a football match. Long after the game had started, they were still trying to flood through the turnstiles, and in fact, thousands were locked out. The second half, the claustrophobic terraces still summoning up encouragement. And this historic day ends with Willie Buchan going into the Celtic legend books as the man who scored a winner in front of the biggest ever audience. It was the 15th time Celtic had won the cup. They were the record holders.
No matter what team I played with, if I go when I travel, even with Manchester and Aberdeen and all these and that, and I'm not Jimmy Delaney at Aberdeen, I'm always Jimmy Delaney at Celtic. That's the way if you've played with Old Firm, they just clash you. You talk to me as Jimmy Delaney at Celtic, not Jimmy Delaney Manchester United.
The brand is there.
The brand is there.
In 1938, the size of Hampden crowds was being dwarfed by those in another place, Nuremberg. And in that year, the cup went to the Kingdom of Fife for the first time. The first match at Hampden ended in a 1-1 draw. But in the replay, there's the evidence of an emphatic win. And still the only second division side to won the cup. Aberdeen won it after the war, beating Hibs 2-1, their first ever win. But then Rangers took over. In the late 40s, early 50s, the cup seemed an almost permanent fixture at Ibrox Park. And there are those whose eyes grow misty when you talk of that era. This was East 5 back in a final against a very mighty Rangers side. It was a time when they seemed to be almost invincible. And with only 40 seconds gone, Rangers were to score. Willie Finlay.
Into the second half, and though Rangers look good, the cup isn't on the Ibrox shelf yet. If George Young, here in a spellbinding back display, has anything to do with it, it won't be long now. Young is at his brilliant best as he sends the Ibrox attack away again, but hold it! Duncanson is fouled near the danger zone. It's a free kick on the edge of the area. Sammy Cox takes the kick, and young Gordon Easton brings off the save of the day. A third-team goalkeeper, he's been playing like a veteran. It would have taken 3 goalies to keep out that rampant Rangers attack. Here they are again, with Willie Thornton putting them 2 up. Eddie Rutherford, number 7, leads the way goalward. It's his centre to Findlay that gives Willie Thornton goal number 3.
Most of us went to Hampden for the first time as schoolboys. Thus, it's difficult to shake off the feeling of awe it inspires, even amongst those who eventually trod the pitch with very great success.
I can remember going away broken-hearted, actually, standing in the schoolboys enclosure. The old days used to get tickets in schoolboys enclosure, and Celtic were playing Clyde, and if you remember, Archie Robertson put one in the back of the net in the last minute, and it broke my heart, that did. And I came back to the replay on a Wednesday, and Tommy Ring scored a goal. I thought he was hell of lucky, but he scored the goal anyway. And I remember meeting Tommy Ring years later, and I said to Tommy, you know, he broke my heart one night at Hampden, and I remember that very, very vividly, and it was great disappointment, because when I was a youngster, I mean, Celtic didn't win all that many things.
Clyde this time, but once more solid defensive work halts the attack, and play swings the other way. The Celtic break through, but not to score. Back in the Celtic half now, and Clyde are awarded a free kick, which is taken by left-back Harry Haddock. Both Ring and Bonner go for it. It rebounds off Ring, and it's a goal! The first and only goal of the match. What a day for Clyde, as captain Tommy Anderson holds aloft the cup, which his team have wrested from Celtic, the previous holders.
Manhattan? No. Cowdenbeath? Yes. The lights of Mossmorran go on whether there's a cup game in town or not. And this tie between St Mirren and Cowdenbeath is prefaced by the thought that the last time the Paisley side were here, they lost. The best cure for that? Go in front. There's no stage fright now. Just a firming up of an unassailable lead that accurately reflects the gap in quality between the two sides. Even this early on a cold evening, Cowdenbeath seemed terribly deflated as St Mirren go further ahead. This is an area you approach with circumspection. Football managers do not take kindly to intruders. And this special preoccupation, of course, is a futile pursuit of trying to be heard. It was all a serious business, but St Mirren progress. And of course they are led by a manager who has experienced it all.
I've been to Hampden, some of these lads haven't been, and it's a magnificent experience. Last season in the semi, we let ourselves down, and they were so, the lads that had been in 3 semis, they were so sick, it was unbelievable in the dressing room.
How is defeat to you, Alec? How do you sustain defeat, especially in a cup game?
Well, any defeat to me, I hate it. My players will tell you I think I must be one of the worst losers in the world.
You take it home with you?
I take it home, and I know it's not fair to my wife and kids, but I do take it home. They know if I go on a Saturday night and we've been beaten, for about the first hour or so, they don't speak to me hardly, and they just leave me alone.
Next round, Ayr United, but there's plenty time to contemplate that. Only time now to wash off the previous round. Well, fortunately, not all historical records weigh 10 tons, and with the use of microfilm and this machine, we can look at almost any newspaper of the past. And what fascinates us is the front page of the Glasgow Herald, dated Thursday, April 27, 1961. Look at that headline: pay offer to teachers, and down here, but strike still likely to go on. So what's new? But what really interests us is the column beside it, this thin one here, headed Joyful Night in Streets of Dunfermline, 25,000 welcome cup winners. And down at the bottom here, Traffic Chaos in Glasgow, which referred to the previous evening when Celtic played Dunfermline in a Scottish Cup final replay won by the Fifers. But what is astonishing about that column and the report on the match itself by the leading football writer of the time for the Glasgow Herald, Cyril Horn, is that in all the column inches, down there and there isn't a single reference to the man who was manager of Dunfermline,
and who became eventually the most successful club manager in the business, Jock Stein.
He went on to win everything he could win, yet one wonders how he appraises his very first win in '61.
Well, very special, because it was the first time from the family I've ever been in anything, and plus as well, it was my first full year as a manager, and playing against Celtic, the team that I had left, was a bit special, but it was a great day for us, because it was after a replay, and we were all excited in the first game, but I think that really that was what set them firmly up for the future as well, which was very important.
Thompson to Peebles. And goal! And it's centre forward Thompson, who's made the score. Dunfermline 1, Celtic 0 to Peebles. Dixon. Dixon has scored, and that makes it, with only a minute or so to go, Dunfermline 2, Celtic 0. I've never seen such a bunch of sandboys, and that's Jock Stein coming in.
Celtic, though, never developed travel sickness going to Hampden. The short journey became a very familiar one. You might almost say Stein was something of an alchemist, turning a leaden club into the dominating influence of the late 60s, 70s. And Willie McNeill cannot forget being at the birth of it all. It was special.
Oh, I think undoubtedly, Archie. There's various reasons for that. I had already played in two finals, both of which had gone to replays, and we'd lost both of them. And here we were winning it for the first time. For me particularly, I scored a winning goal, which made it great, because if you're a centre half, you don't get all that many goals, and to get one as important as that was terrific. But more importantly for the club, it sort of heralded the start of a real successful era.
Inside ball with Lennox, with McLean out of position for once, and Lennox showing a turn of speed they didn't expect. Corner for Celtic. There he goes. It's a good one. It's a goal! A goal by McNeill. Willie McNeill has scored. With 9 minutes to go. Well, that's a captain's job. And he's made the score. Celtic 3, Dunfermline 2.
Isn't it marvellous what you can do with history when it's in this liquid form? You can speed it up. You can stop it. You can spin it back. It's almost totally under your control, except that you can't alter the result. And even though it's in flickery black and white film, as if it's been directed by Max Sennett, to the people who played in that game, that Rangers Celtic Cup final in 1966, it glows in resplendent technicolor.
Well, the 66 final sticks out in my mind simply because it was a replay. It's a tremendous atmosphere, over 100,000 people in the ground, and I'll always remember for the goal Kai Johansson scored, the Danish fullback that played on our side. Celtic were a good side at the time, and the play came about here, and I was in the middle of the park here, and Kai had been up in an overlap, and it was cut back to him, and he crashed the ball in the far corner of the goals against Ronnie Simpson, and we're better to score than the Rangers end against Celtic, and that one goal proved to be the match winner, and we won the cup 1-0.
Inside forward Johnston. Well, I don't know how McLean missed that one. And somebody's foot stopped that one. That was a goal by Johansson. Well, there it is. Johansson, the first Danish player ever to appear in a cup final, and he is celebrated by scoring the first goal.
I think it's a real occasion. There's a different feel to a cup final from an ordinary match. One of the problems in Scottish football, I think, particularly at that time, we tended to meet Rangers more often than not in the cup final, and it tends to underrate it in a whole lot of people's eyes, I think. But for me, there was always something special about it. There was great atmosphere. The weather invariably was that bit better. The scene was great. I always loved playing at Hampden. I thought it was terrific.
Usual Billy McNeil will be up for this. There's McNeil to go. The goal by McNeil as the Rangers defend. Absolutely brilliantly taken by McNeil. And within a minute of the start of the game, Celtic have got 1-0 up. Look at this. Hesitantly. Here's Leonard. Almost with a gift. There's a goal by Leonard. Number 2 for Celtic. Leonard's the scorer. Greg. Here's Connolly. What a chance for Connolly to go. The goal by Connolly. On towards goal. No offside. McKinnon appealing for offside, but no. Here's Chalmers. It's a great goal by Chalmers.
Well, apart from yourself, of course, you must have witnessed some great performances in cup finals.
Oh, tremendous, Archie. I remember one in particular, the 6-1 result against Hibernian when Dixie Dean scored a hat-trick. I scored the first goal, just to mention that, by the way. But I roomed with Dixie before the cup final, and Dixie at that time had a little bit of an Indian sign on Hibs and could always score a goal or two. And I remember sitting in the room talking about the final, and we were obviously naturally enough keyed up about it, and Dixie said to me, he said, I fancy myself to score at least 2. He said, in fact, he said, well, a bit of luck, I might even get a hat-trick. And if you remember, he said that also the following day, he said, if I score a hat-trick, I'm going to do a somersault. He did score a hat-trick, and he did the somersault as well.
Bobby Murdoch with it. It's a goal by Dean. Ball coming off his arm, but Brownlee just getting to that, or does he? It's Dean, it's in. Not a chance. Must be a goal. No. He scored. Dean just scored number 3. Murdoch. Rob fighting hard, but again you see somebody at the back for Celtic. And Deans is onside. Great chance for Deans as a goal.
The Centenary Cup, 1973. It was to be the last time a crowd of over 100,000 would attend a Scottish Cup final.
Big Tom, I felt, only scored about 1 goal or 2 goals for Rangers in his whole career, and this is a goal I'll never forget. I remember the ball came off that far post there, came right across, come back off of this post, and came back on the line, and Big Tom had ran in, and he just put his foot up and knocked it over. And quite honestly, the boys were kidding him on in the dressing room after it. If he hadn't his long studs in his boots, he'd have missed the ball, because it only went so far over the line. But there again, if it goes over that line, it all count, and we went on to win the cup that year 3-2.
What was the last one like? I remember it very well indeed. You played against Sergei. As I recall, I may be wrong with this, but as I recall, you hadn't in fact told anybody you were going to retire after the game until after it.
Well, it hadn't been announced officially. We had, the rest of the players knew about it the night before, and I think they felt that it was something special. We wanted to go out in a victory, and we went out in a victory. When I look back on it now, actually, I must have been a bit daft, because I had a bit of football left. I'm not saying I could have played at my best, but I'm quite sure I had a bit of football left, and perhaps it was just a bit silly to leave so early.
Well, I remember the scene only too well, you walking up to get the cup. And before you got the cup, as you maybe recollect yourself, you turned away from whoever was going to present you with it, and you shook hands with somebody down in front. It may have been friends or something, and you looked quite emotional. I wonder if you remember that.
Yeah, I do remember it. In actual fact, I was very lucky, because Big Jock went on to the SFA, and it was actually my family, and we got tickets for the kids, and they were there right in front of it. And it was probably one of the kids that I was leaning over to, and they got tickets, and they were right in front of the cup. So we've got 1 or 2 photographs in the house where they're in it. And
you looked a wee bit red-eyed.
Well, I was. To be honest with you, I think that it's great to get out at the top, Archie, but knowing that nothing like that is going to happen for you again is it's a bit emotional, and I felt the emotions at that particular time.
Celtic wanted the attack in as Kenny Dalglish gets that beautifully set up for him. It's an each chip, it must be! Paul Wilson! Neatly floated in, and McCulloch trying to go in on this. There's Whitefoot with it. McCann, and it's there, the goal by McCann. There's Lennox with it, that's a good goal! Paul Wilson! Lennox, look at him go! This is a Buckfield penalty. Penalty kick. And McCluskey with it. There it is. 3-1 for Celtic.
During this spell, Celtic were in danger of running out of cupboard room to place trophies or wall space upon which to hang the evidence of their supremacy. But did all these foreign ventures dwarf the Scottish Cup and render it less meaningful?
No, not really. No, we had a great Scottish Cup success as well in 1967. We went to play the semi-final of the European Cup, and we went to Czechoslovakia, and we come back to play the final of the Cup against Aberdeen and won 2-0 that day with 2 Willie Wallace goals. And we played exceptionally well. We played midweek, and people say you can't play midweek and then play in a final. We played midweek in the semi-final, the second leg in Czechoslovakia, and then come back and won 2-0 in the final. No, I think the Scottish Cup's a bit special. Everyone looks forward to that because it can take you into Europe the following year. Even though you won the championship, you still want to win the Cup as well. And I think that it will always be a bit special, the Scottish Cup.
Air, Wamnera Toon surpasses for playable pitches even when so many games are off in other parts of the country. It is bright but cold. When teams like St Mirren are expected to win, they tend to think of themselves as pressurised, and sometimes it's a very difficult feeling to shake off. There can be good money in the Cup, especially in the latter stages. Ayr can do with the cash. It's a fair incentive. Team talks remain mysteries to the outside world, and it's perhaps just as well. Outside, where it really matters, the pitch is certainly hard, the game a bit of a lottery. And time drags on to the second half. A substitution alters the course of events. 1-0. It's sufficient, and welcome to Alec Miller. In Paisley, folk quite naturally will give you a hearty conversation about the year 1959. That was when the Saints last won the Cup. Recently, they've been in 3 semi-finals in a row, and the folk here don't take kindly to jokes about always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Tommy Bryceland will always be remembered for his first goal in that final. It's been described a million times round the hostelries in the area. The second goal was scored by a very talented winger by the name of Alistair Miller. It was a confident, handsome win. Now Miller and Bryceland are supporters.
I remember because it was on the Friday night, it was our Boys Brigade inspection. And I was taking a vaulting horse at that time. And I was going over this vaulting horse on a Friday night. You can imagine it nowadays, you know. A very experienced £100,000 player going over a vaulting horse on a Friday night. But that was true. That was our inspection night, the Friday night, over the vaulting horse. Way to our bed, up the next day, eating at Ferguson's.
You didn't even change for a cup final, just went through the usual routine?
Usual routine, part-time.
Oh, that's good.
Dundee United don't like Love Street all that much. If given the choice, they would rather play elsewhere. But if the record is not a glowing one here, they now give an unmistakable and early evidence that this will be their day. St Mirren's response is given assistance by a very soft touch. It's a penalty kick. Now they're back in it. But of course Dundee United have flair and ability and speed and Paul Stella. So many players getting goals off his feet, like Davie Dodds there. Goalkeepers being led off hardly inspire optimism. Things are going wrong, and they're not going to get better. Then we discover that one of the most mild-mannered men in the game has a temper. It really was a reckless tackle on him, but Paul is not in a forgiving mood. For the first time in his career, he takes an early bath. But that doesn't obstruct United's passage to the semi-finals. When they are in the mood, the remorseless nature of their play will wear anybody down. St Mirren are beginning to crumble, and against 10 men. So the bodies will have to console themselves with memories of 1959, that little bit longer. New armies have formed over the past 5 years. The Red Army from the north regard a journey to the Scottish Cup as a mere jaunt. They can boast of faraway places like Munich and Gothenburg. They're a different kind of support from the old firms, perhaps more family-orientated. But like anybody else, they're fond of success. And in the past 3 years, the club has increased their capacity to sing and dance.
Brilliant ball by Cooper. Dial. Well, it goes in the John McGarvey, he scored. 12 minutes of the first half. That's a good-looking ball again at Jackson. Hard hit there by Simpson. And there's a floating equaliser by Alec McLeish. Strachan. Well, that's a brilliant ball. McGee, he scored. McGee running very well. And it's still there. What's McGee going to do? Must be. Yes. Strachan has led it 3-1. There goes Cooper. Cooper with a great chance. Cooper must make it 4. He does. Oh. Again, now, Simpson. What's a 1-2? That's a good ball. McGee likes his position. It could be there. It is the winner. That will win the cup. Eric Black, 1-0. Strachan plays it away wide. Alec McLeish is up. Here's Black with a chance. Has it gone in? It has. Danny McGrain. Well, there's a chance. And there's the equaliser. For McStay. Now with a great goal. Off the post. I thought it was in. And there it is, yes. Rob McGee does it.
The first time they had achieved a double, League and Cup. The trophies look resplendent together. They're on their way to Edinburgh, to Tynecastle for the replay. Dundee United support is small compared to others, but they have a sound relationship with the club and they're very loyal. And on that particular night, Paul Sturrock, reinstated in the eyes of the law, eludes captivity and United inch forward. The quality of the play is summed up by that goal, as United go well in front. But Aberdeen are very proud. This is their last fling. 2-1, but too late. Dundee United's third final. Along with Aberdeen over the past 5 or so years, they've altered the whole political base of Scottish football. People now talk of them with respect, where previously, years ago, they couldn't be taken seriously. Doug Houston played for United in their first final in '74, and despite the defeat, relishes the memory.
I think so. I think there's very few opportunities of appearing in one, and it's something that's imprinted on you when you look back over your career, especially when you've stopped playing. I think it's nice to look back and say, well, I appeared in one. Any special things you do recall? I remember on that particular day, it was a very nice day. Andy Gray and myself both living in Glasgow. We'd come back on the Friday back home, and I'd gone and collected him at his house in Drumchapel just before lunchtime. and we made our way to Hampden, and I think it was a contrast. I was the experienced player, and there was a wee bit of apprehension in my mind, although he was a young Gallus guy, and I think he thought we were a certainty, you know.
Do you get any feeling of reaction within the city to United getting to the final again?
Yes, I think so. I think that's, especially at school. I'm a teacher at school in Dundee here, and it's the buzz all around the playground and even in the staff room. I think it's affecting adults and children alike.
In the other semi-final, Celtic have taken an inordinately long time to dispose of Motherwell, who've lasted 1 3/4 games before succumbing. And when they do, the heavens seem to open, and Celtic are left wondering why it was all so difficult in the first place. In the space of 15 minutes, they demolish a tiring side whose legs have run proudly but cannot give any more. So Celtic look forward to the 43rd final. It's fitting that both sides of the country are represented in the 100th final. Fitting that the old order is being challenged by a newer force. It'll be a clash of environments as well, for Celtic regard Hampden as being only a lap of honour away. It's their parish. United have to enter foreign territory, but they'll find sympathy with those who would like the old firm further offended. The object of their desire. It has a gleam and sparkle that's both aristocratic and timeless, and for the 100th time, it's just waiting for the right pair of hands.
I still got a feeling for Dundee United. They're seeing the warm-up behind the captaincy, and they're very relaxed and they're very composed looking. I feel that if they get past the first 50 minutes, they can go on and win the cup. But a Celtic, nobody can dispute Celtic's ferocious fighting in cup finals, and that's going to be a big factor in the game. I know Alan talks about skill, but sometimes it goes beyond the skill thing in a cup final.
Right. Thoughts about the team first of all, Alan?
I think fairly predictable, Arthur, especially the Dundee United side. Obviously, Pierce O'Leary is going to be a bit disappointed being left on the bench, but Tom McAdam has an awful lot of experience. I would say that the United side might play a different formation, as Jock has said, against Celtic, but with Ralph Milne and Sturrock and Bannon up front, as well as the threat of Davy Dodds, they're going to have an awful lot of firepower. But I did see Celtic at Tynecastle, Jock, just 2 or 3 weeks ago, and on a very difficult surface. They played attractive football and looked very fit and eager for it as well.
Well, the only doubt in my mind about Celtic is their match fitness of McGrain, Burns and guys like that, but they have a tremendous pride and fighting spirit in them, and I think there's going to be a very, very tight game.
Okay, it promises to be a marvellous match. And incidentally, for those of you wondering about Wembley and that other cup final between Everton and Manchester United, we will, as usual, have a visual report. And that was the best of the first half action at our half time, and of course the pick of the second half action from Wembley at the end of our Scottish Cup final. And talking of Wembley, one player who knows all about the particular thrill of a cup final, although strangely enough he actually hasn't got an FA Cup medal, is Kenny Dalglish. He is on our match commentary team this afternoon with Jock Brown. Just after he arrived at the ground, he had a quick word with our reporter Ian Archer.
Kenny, how does it feel to be here and not playing?
I'm getting quite used to it. This is the second time I've been up. I wish there were a cup final to play myself in England today, but it's not to be, so this is second best, and I just hope it's as good a result for Celtic as it was the last time.
What's it like coming out that tunnel on cup final day? I mean, it must be one of the great moments in a player's career.
It's not so bad coming out the tunnel, it's the build up to it. The busiest place in the dressing room, both dressing rooms over the toilets. It's just, I don't know, you can't explain it unless you've been in it. It's just the stomach's turning over and your legs are going and everything.
What about today's game? I mean, obviously you're supposed to be neutral as part of our commentary team, but I suppose deep down you'll be wanting Celtic to win.
Well, obviously I had a great time at Celtic, and they were always very, very good to me, both the club and the fans. And obviously if they're involved in a game, I'd like them to win. But at the same time, we've got to appreciate Dundee United and appreciate the work that Jim McGrain has done for Dundee United. The game itself, I haven't seen a lot of either team, so I'm not really in the best position to judge it.
What about one or two players to look out for? I mean, if you were with Celtic, who would you be a wee bit bothered about in the Dundee United side?
Well, obviously Paul McStay and Maurice Johnston. I think you have to look towards them. Daniel will be doing as usual. He'll be wholehearted performance, and they'll make sure that there's nothing less than 125% from anybody. Dundee United have got Paul Sturrock, and really the only lads that I know are the lads that are in the Scottish squad. Maurice Malthus, David Nary's been in the squad, and Paul Hergett is a bit dangerous at set pieces.
So we got a perfect day for it, Kenny. I mean, finally put you on the spot, a prediction and a scoreline.
I don't know about the scoreline, I hope Celtic win. I don't know who's going to win, but I hope it's Celtic because of the time that I spent there when I was younger.
Kevin McGrain looking very happy and relaxed, and not much doubt about who he thinks will win the 1985 Centenary Scottish Cup. Well, let's take a close look at the two teams, and first of all, Sally McNair with Celtic. She's out at Parkhead, and she talks first of all to David Hay, who's just outside the team bus. How did he feel about the big game?
Hard game because United are a first-class side, but as I've said all along, it's really vital that Celtic win.
Well, you haven't had a good win for a long time. Do you think that really this season you maybe lost your form a bit after that bad Rapid Vienna match at Old Trafford?
Yeah, I think it took a lot out of the players, to be honest, because we were going really well, and to have a quarter-final place taken away from you, it took a lot out of them. And when you watch the game against Everton, another night there, I think some of the players were saying, well, that could have been us, and I think we'd have put up a better show than Rapid did.
Everybody's very confident. We've prepared well, and there's no excuses for us not winning.
Your record against Dundee United this season hasn't been that hot.
Yeah, but I think this is a one-off game. It's different. We're more used to playing the cup finals than Dundee United, and that's going to be important.
The ground is changing also with the North Stand away. The crowd perhaps can't hear them as loudly as before, the ground conditions. But the build up to the game, Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, it's a tremendous atmosphere.
It's going to be a hard game. The United are a good side. I think we've got better players than them. If we play well enough on the day, then we'll come out.
But at this point in the season, you've played each other so often. Is it not coming down to a battle of wits really at the end of it all?
I don't know. I think the cup finals are one-off games, so I don't think previous games will come into it really. When it comes to the cup final, it's just who plays well on the day. It's only 90 minutes really. So we'll look to play well.
Who do you think the biggest dangers are?
I think the 11 United players that's playing, they've got a good goalkeeper who won the Player of the Year award, first-class defence, good work in midfield and 3 good frontmen. So the team in general could cause us all sorts of problems. But if we attack as we can do and score our chances when they come along and don't score them and defend probably as well as we've done all season, then hopefully the cup will come to Celtic Park.
Of course, you yourself have tried to sign both Celtic and Dodds in the past.
That's true, but I don't think John McLean was too keen to let them come to Celtic Park, and if they're listening just now, lads, you missed out on a few quid.
But you've got the very opposite image of Jim McLean. He's very hot-headed, shall we say, on the day. You've got a very cool image. Do you really feel as cool as you look?
No, not really. So a front, to be honest. He's older than me anyway, and he's been in the game longer. That's probably why he's a bit uptight, and I find the longer I'm getting the game, I'm maybe turning to the likes of Jim McLean or that. No, we're different people and we react differently, and we manage different clubs.
We realise it's a hard task to catch Aberdeen in the league all through the season, but now the cup final, it's a one-off game, gives us a good chance to win the cup.
Feeling pretty confident. Where's the biggest danger, do you think?
Biggest danger? Probably our 2 linemen, Milne and Bannon. I think they'll be our biggest danger.
You'll be marking them, alright.
No, we'll send Danny onto them. The old man will run after them. I think we're attacking side as well, so I think the fans will see a good attacking open game. Maybe a few goals, but I just hope it's a Celtic fight through at the end of the day.
Yeah, great one to win. I think everyone, both the sets of teams have got a duty to make it a showpiece, and I'm sure it will be.
Confident prediction there, and it certainly looks like being a great match. Well, what about Dundee United? They've tried so hard to win the Scottish Cup. They've been there before. In fact, they lost to Celtic in the 1974 final, you remember. Well, Sally McNair's been through to Dundee to meet the Dundee United team and the players and the manager. Jim McLean, who are the Celtic men he's watching out for today?
Well, I think that they've a lot of class players, and there's no one that they would pick out individually well ahead of others. But if you want me to throw in a few names, then obviously Maurice Johnston, Davie Provan, Tommy Burns, and I hope that Bona doesn't play too well, and I hope he's very busy.
But you've played Celtic 5 times this season, and not a bad record. 2 draws, but 2 wins.
Well, I honestly don't look at records because there's some that obviously we're quite happy with, and there are others we don't. And I don't think that records mean anything at all. For instance, this season, people said that we would lose to St Mirren because we'd never beaten them, so we hammered them 4-1. They said also that we'd go out to Aberdeen because we'd never beaten them in the Scottish Cup. We beat them, so as far as I'm concerned, records mean nothing. They're only there to be broken, and it's nice to feel that we're going into the match knowing that we can beat Celtic, that is important from our players' point of view, and I know that they believe that they can win it on Saturday.
Of course, your career very nearly ended just a few years ago in '79 when you were injured playing for Scotland against Norway. Did you ever think that you might not be playing football again?
I always thought you'd always make a comeback, because if you don't have that sort of attitude to come back, you know, you're better just packing it in, really, you know. So you've always got to sort of just take each day as it comes, and then hope it's going to come good in the end of the day.
Richard Gough, you're another one who almost left us for sunnier climes, and now you're playing for Scotland in a Scotland jersey. You very nearly went back to South Africa, though.
I did go back. I went back for 7 weeks, I think, but I was managed to be persuaded to come back and try my luck again, and it's all worked out very well.
What does it mean for you now then, playing for Dundee United in a game like this and playing for Scotland?
It's a very big honour, very big honour.
How do you think you'll do against Celtic? You had a great goal against Celtic at Parkhead in December.
Well, I hope the results are similar then. I hope I get another goal just like that one as well.
One thing I will be saying, as I've been saying recently, that in football, especially with provincial clubs, if you don't get it today, there's next to no chance of you getting it tomorrow. And I would hope that the players approach this match that it's their last chance of winning the Scottish Cup. It most certainly is this season, and to be realistic, it might be some of their last chances. So we've got to approach it with that determination, and if they do that, then Celtic will need to play exceptionally well to beat us.
And there we are. Let's go straight now to Hampden Park, the moment you've all been waiting for. Dundee United and Celtic coming out side by side. How marvellous to see it. An absolutely superb scene there, and a big crowd inside the ground for the match. Referee Brian McGinley. We don't need to tell you which end of the field that is. I wonder if when the players line up there, Jock Wallace, what exactly is going through their heads? What are they thinking of right now, I wonder?
Well, I think they'll just be psyched up for the game, wanting the game to start, get the preliminaries over and just get on with the game. That's how I feel at that particular time.
Right. Alan, what about the last minute thoughts about the match? We're both tipping Dundee United, but what do you think right now?
I'm looking for a very good game of football, Arthur. I think a few goals once the game settles. I've got to stick with Dundee United. I think Brian McGinley will have an easy task today, I would think. He'll be looking for an early opportunity to establish his authority in the match, but certainly lots of skill, lots of good football, and if the teams play to form the way they have done this season, then I've got to stay with Dundee United.
Right, let's take a look at the teams then. We've got them ready now as that magnificent view comes in there. The company, we are Malpass, Beattie, Gough, Hegarty, Mary, Bannon, who of course will probably operate wide on the other side of the pitch, but there's number 7, Milne, Kirkwood, Sturrock and Dodds, and that's one would have to say, I think, Jock, that that's as close to Dundee United's most powerful lineup as one could manage.
That's the team I picked for Dundee United. Yeah. That to me is their best team at this moment in time.
Right, and the Celtic lineup, Alan, here again, David Hay really hasn't had too much to think about with that side. The experience of McAdam clearly playing a significant part in his thoughts.
I think so. Pierce Leary will be disappointed not to take the field at the kick-off, but at the same time he's on the bench, he could come on. But the Celtic midfield of Paul McStay, Murdo MacLeod and Tommy Burns is really formidable after when you think about it. So having said Dundee United are a good side, I've also got to say that Celtic are right in there, and with that kind of midfield, especially a powerhouse like Murdo MacLeod, I think they're well in with a chance as well. But two very predictable sides, I think.
Right. Well, one of the delightful things about the Hampden scene today was a parade of former Scottish Cup champions, Scottish Cup captains, and Brian McGinley there just quietly contemplating the scene. He'll be in charge, as Alan Gordon says. He reckons he'll have a very comfortable afternoon. Let's hope so. But one of the nice things about today was the parade of the former captains. We're right back to 1938, John Snowden, 1939, Harry Beaton, Frank Dunlop of Aberdeen after the war, Jimmy White and Jock Shaw, who clashed, of course, in the Morton Rangers game of 1948, and a very special welcome for one former Celtic captain, Kenny Dalglish. Just listen to the arrival of Kenny Dalglish here when he came out to take his bow. Marvellous, and if Kenny Dalglish can hear us, I think Alan Gordon and Jock Wallace would perhaps like a quick word with him, but in fact he's not. He's on his way up, is he? Fair enough. Jock Brown, what do the conditions look like at Hampden this afternoon for you? What are the conditions today?
The conditions are to look absolutely ideal for a splendid game of football, and with the two sides we have on the field and the conditions which are prevailing, I think you really couldn't have a better prospect for a top-class football match. We know that cup finals frequently can be disappointing nervy occasions, but the setting so far and the build-up has been such that hopes are very high indeed that we'll have a top quality match.
Well, Mr. John McCann, the Minister for Health and Social Work at the Scottish Office, meeting the teams, and of course today's match sponsored by the Scottish Health Education Group. And of course every player in the 100th Scottish Cup final will actually receive 2 medals today. That's the unusual thing, because to commemorate the 100th final, the Cup sponsors have commissioned 100 souvenir medals to mark the occasion. What a marvellous thought. Right. You two are tipping Dundee United. I tipped Dundee United to beat Aberdeen in the semi-final, but I have a funny feeling that in fact Celtic might just nip this one. David Hayes talked about the need to win this one, particularly for his fans, and I think that Celtic might just shoot it. It may need extra time, but we'll have to wait and see how that works. Kenny Dalglish is there now. John Wallace, I think you'd like to welcome him back to Scotland and say hello to Kenny.
Yes, hello Ken. Welcome back, and you're looking good.
Can you hear us, Kenny? Kenny Dalglish, I don't think he's hearing us. If he's hearing us, we're not, in fact, hearing him. Can you hear us, Kenny? We can hear the pipes beautifully.
There's a problem for Kenny getting his headphones on at the moment. He's just sitting beside me after battling up through the crowds after that presentation of Cup Final captains. We'll weather very shortly indeed, but he's just getting into position now with sweat on the brow. And Kenny, you just got into position. A big occasion. Are you happy to be here with us again?
Yeah, it's great to come and see the Scottish Cup final. I wish I'd played again at Wembley myself, but it's not today. And it's a tremendous occasion for all the players out there today.
And that welcome you got, I think, out in the field as going on as a former captain must have been special for you.
When I went to the Manchester United ground this year to watch the Rapid Vienna Celtic game, I got tremendous reception as well. And it's always very nice to be received like that.
So the Dundee United manager Jim McGrain goes back into his seat in the stand. Remember, he can't go into the dugout as the sides break off to continue the warm-up for the start of the match. Pictures of the Celtic end far to our right, packed as you would expect, with the pipe band still in the field and the crowds now anticipating the kick-off. Here the United players warming up. And the smaller crowd, in fairness, is on the west terracing. That's where the United fans are congregated. But they're certainly here to enjoy the occasion. They made plenty of noise so far. And in these very smart tracksuits, the Dundee United side, there it is. The big surprise for me, at any rate, is the absence of John Holt, who's been such a fine player for them all season. But the performance of Stuart Beattie in the semi-final, particularly that replay against Aberdeen at Tynecastle, earning him his place in the side. And there is Beattie. Remember that second goal he scored for United at Tynecastle in the semi-final, and that sparked off by a magnificent midfield display of football. That's earned him his cup final place. The Celtic side, unlucky player perhaps, is Brian McClair, who's on the bench, having scored 24 goals this season. But that apart, the team pretty much, I think, as expected for Celtic, with McStay, the McStay brothers playing, Willie McStay and Danny McGrain at full back, with Tom McAdam back in the side, and the unlucky central defender out is Pierce O'Leary. Maurice Johnston took part in the FA Cup final for Watford a year ago against Everton at Wembley, and makes it a double this afternoon, playing up front for Celtic. The oldest player in the field, he won't thank me for saying that, Hamish McAlpine, the United goalkeeper, Scotland's Football Writers Player of the Year, and playing in his second cup final, but looking for his first winner's medal. And the oldest player in the Celtic side, 35 years old, Danny McGrain, the Celtic captain, has 4 cup-winning medals, and he will be a very important player this afternoon for Celtic. It's the 4th Scottish Cup final for Brian McGinley, the referee. Very experienced official, recognised, I think, generally now as Scotland's top referee, and of course the accolade of being awarded the final again signifies that that's the way the SFA view matters also. So conditions could not be better. Blue sky, pitch in excellent condition. It's Celtic who will start the match. And you can hear the singing round the stadium, mainly from the Celtic supporters, I think it's fair to say. The referee Brian McGinley checks his watch, and the 100th Scottish Cup final is underway. So Celtic in possession at the start. Davie Provan playing the ball forward, and that's Paul Hegarty's challenge on Mo Johnston. McStay going forward. That's Roy Aitken, and that's caught Mo Johnston offside. So United have the free kick. David Neary with the free kick. Dodds did well to keep it in. So United normally can be depended upon to play well when they get a good start to the match. Their best performances this season in the games which really matter against Celtic and Aberdeen and Rangers have come when they've had a very good opening spell for the first 10 minutes or so, when they pick up the pace and take the initiative, and I'm sure that's what manager Jim McGrain has in mind this afternoon. So Celtic will clearly have something to say about that. There's Murdo MacLeod. Now Aitken. Bannon brought down by McStay. A late challenge by the international midfield player. So United free kick. Played in by Malpass. There's Davy Dodds, back to Bannon. Well, it wasn't a bad snap chance at the edge of the box for Eamon Bannon. It was well set up by United, and Bannon may be regretting the way he struck that ball. The long free kick from Malpass, that's well taken by Davy Dodds with a header inside, and Bannon really might have done better with a shot.
I think you've been lucky with the strike you made, and it might just have been a little bit early in the game, but sometimes when it's early in the game you've got to take the chances.
Bannon, perhaps one of the most accurate strikers of the ball around the penalty area, missing that good opening chance. Goff and McGrain clash, it's with Ralph Milne. Ball United have possession, and that ball forward from Goff is cut off by McAdam. McGrain to Barnes. Provan in good position. McGarvey and Johnston on the right, and a fine tackle by Hegarty. Well, the tackling's tough enough, all right, in the early stages. No prisoners being taken. Well, Aitken did well as Dodds closed in. Paul McStay under pressure from Beattie. That's a well-judged tackle by McAdam. Burns on the break. Now pass in front of Willie McStay. United have started with Richard Goff at right back and Maurice Malpass at left back, despite wearing a number 2 jersey.
I think the grass is a bit long, John. I think it maybe find the players take a couple of minutes to get used to it. The start of the game will be very tense, and I think it's strange pitch as well, the length of the grass at this time of the season could find a problem. Early doors, but they'll get used to it. It's been a great start, full of excitement, and the tackling's great as well. There's not been a dirty tackle yet, although it's been a lot of commitment.
Yeah, I think that's an important point actually. A lot of tough tackles, but none really to take any exception to, apart from the one which Paul McStay was penalised for. There's BD. Well, he fairly likes these shots on the volley around the box. For a long time before we forget the one which finished up beating Aberdeen in the semi-final replay. £90,000 from St Johnstone Stuart Beattie cost, and already proving good value. Paul McStay's head flick. There's Malpass. Good forcing run from Malpass, showing a lot of confidence. Couldn't find Bannon on the left, but Murdo MacLeod has been penalised for his tackle. Didn't appear to be a great deal in that, but Malpass showing a lot of pace and confidence coming forward. And that's earned United the free kick. Bannon and Beattie over the ball. Paul Hegarty's in the box, but that's an easy one for Bonner. Goff and Hegarty were committed, and Connor, I think, was hoping to start a Celtic attack with that clearance. There's 7 internationals in the United side. There's no reason in the world why they should be overawed by the occasion. Bannon is playing well in field in the opening stage of the match, looking after Paul McStay. Tends to play wide on the left flank in midfield, but so far in the match he's played much nearer the middle. That's Tom McAdam's free kick. Goff is penalised. McGarvey wants to take the free kick in a hurry. Leaves it now to Burns. Or Davie Provan. Provan coming across. He can be very accurate indeed with this in-swinging cross from the right. And that almost caught out the United defence. Maurice Johnston making the run towards the near post, while the attention was being drawn by Aitken and McAdam and Willie McStay on the far side. Some good inventive play there from Celtic, Kenny.
They were a little bit unlucky there, it could have bounced that away. I'm not sure if Morris touched it, it was a defender, but I don't think they'd have worried about it if it had ended up in the back of the net. It was quite a good free kick.
Dodds with a header, returned by McAdam. Beattie and McStay clash. It breaks for MacLeod initially, but Davie Dodds coming back to help in midfield. It's well taken by Bonner. Paul Sturrock was the United player closing in. We've seen very little of Sturrock so far in the match. They're skidding off the head of Maurice Johnston for a United goal kick. So the rain has started to fall here at Hampden. I don't think the players will be too upset about that, Kenny.
It just puts a nice little shine on the pitch, and it might make the game a little bit quicker. Might make the tackles a bit fiercer as well.
Paul McStay's header. Hegarty to Dodds. Hegarty again. Breaks for MacLeod. Here's Burns. It's all very congested in the middle of the field. Back it goes to Willie McStay. Now pass playing it forward, and the late challenge by Willie McStay is picked up by referee McGinley. And unfortunate, because there did appear to be a good advantage to be played there, but the referee obviously intent on keeping a tight grip on the match in the opening stages. And David Neary with a free kick. A header from McAdam. Here's Beattie trying to beat the offside trap. As the Celtic defence pushed out. But Bonner also well up his goal line. There's McGarvey. It's well read by Neary. Dodds. Well tackled by Roy Aitken. Maurice Johnston is offside. United were pushing out very quickly behind that bit of play in midfield. But Johnston was isolated, and David Neary again take a free kick, this time shot to Hegarty. Kirkwood tackled immediately by Burns. There's still very few signs of quality service reaching the front players on either side. Neary to Beattie. It was intended for Richard Goff, but McGrain is there. Burns to MacLeod. Willie McStay taking up good position. That was a fine pass from MacLeod. It was intended for Johnston. For a United goal kick. Both sides getting a bit of a problem getting width into the play in midfield, Kenny.
I think both Tommy Burns and Eamon Bannock could go a little bit wider when the teams have got the ball to give their own players a bit of an option to find them.
McAdam's clearance, McGarvey giving chase, down goes Hegarty. There was no free kick, but McAlpine sorted out any arguments. opening period in the final, and the noise coming from the East Terracing where the Celtic supporters are congregated. Well, United certainly have given nothing away in the opening stages. Just that one dangerous free kick from Davie Provan causing problems, but here's a chance now for Celtic. And the cross from McStay was too long, but Kirkwood's pass back gives the corner kick to Celtic. And that's an opportunity for Tom McAdam and Roy Aitken to come forward. For Roy Aitken right in the heart of things as Provan takes the short corner to Burns. There's Provan again, now Murdo MacLeod, the United defence pushing out. David Odds back in defence, only Paul Sturrock left upfield by United. Willie McStay under a lot of pressure. He did well. Bit of slackness there at the back from Celtic. Goff trying to get to the pitch of the ball. Here's Provan. Back to MacLeod. Willie McStay is the only player available on the right for MacLeod. Now Burns. Well, that certainly was a rash tackle from Billy Kirkwood. He committed himself very early on and went straight through the tackle. Well, this is one which Tommy Burns certainly did not enjoy. Kirkwood totally committed, Burns beating him easily, and referee McGinley content to administer a warning to the United player. Tommy Burns getting treatment for black armbands incidentally, mark of respect for those who died in the Bradford City disaster last week. So Burns is back on his feet and Murdo MacLeod getting some treatment. Well, Billy Kirkwood really has no complaint at all about getting a warning for that, and in some eyes he may be considered lucky not to be booked. McStay to McGarvey, now Paul McStay. Dodge back in defence, still only Sturrock up front for United. Willie McStay's cross. Ralph Milne back in defence also with a clearance. Here's Danny McGrain again. And MacLeod. Murdo MacLeod very strong on the ball as he comes forward. Now Provan. Paul McStay, the tackle was from Dodds. And then from BD on MacLeod. McGarvey back to McStay. The tackle this time came from David Neary. Well driven shot by Tommy Burns. Should have caused problems for McAlpine, he took it well. Sturrock, Kirkwood. Dodge back in attack, run by Willie McStay in the air. There's Hegarty. Now Bannon. Neary coming forward. Got Sturrock off balance, and here's Tom McAdam for Celtic. Sturrock going in behind McAdam, taking on Aitken for pace. Goal kick is given. Sturrock is upset, but very difficult indeed, Kenny, to take on Roy Aitken for pace in that situation.
As if, especially if you haven't got any space to go by, man. I think in the last minute there was just a typical example, I think, of how the game will go. Celtic were attacking in numbers and Dundee United broke it up, came up the park, and Willie McStay got a great header in because Eamon Bannon was behind him, looking in case there was any danger. I think that's typical of how Dundee United play.
Well, back now with Hamish McAlpine, and Richard Goff getting off immediately to provide an option for the throw out. The pass missing out Ralph Milne. The rain still falling heavily here at Hampden. It's certainly not dampening the enthusiasm of the big crowd inside the stadium. Burns going in heavily on Beattie. The handshake welcome of no doubt by referee McGinley. Burns perhaps reacting a little to the knock he took a moment or two ago from Billy Kirkwood. David Neary. There's Turrock with a chance for United. Still has possession, but has he lost the chance? Bannon. Cleared by McAdam. Well, a great opportunity there for Paul Sturrock. He hesitated inside the box when he may have done better to have the first time shot. United remain on the attack. It certainly was just a glimmer of a chance in the box for Sturrock. It's gone behind for the goal kick. A chance for Paul Sturrock, Kenny.
They were a bit fortunate getting a break of the ball. I don't know whether one of the United lads handled it or not, but certainly Paul just got caught a little bit with the skin on top of the surface. I think that's really what beat him more than anything else. But it must be quite encouraging for Dundee United to have created it.
The playing surface undoubtedly changing character a little with this rainfall. Just making it a little more difficult to judge the passes and control the ball for a moment or two until the players adjust. An offside decision against Paul Sturrock gives Celtic the free kick, taken short by McAdam to McGrain. There's McGarvey. Already missed out Kirkwood with the pass from defence. That gives Celtic the chance to keep up the pressure on the United defence. McGarvey. The header came from Hegarty. There's Beattie. Kirkwood under pressure all the time from McGarvey. Got no peace at all from the Celtic striker. But he has won the throw for United. Lucky break for Sturrock, getting the ball back to Milne, but it's with McStay for Celtic. Good control and a pass to Willie McStay. The linesman indicating to the referee that a hand was used by David Odds, so free kick to Celtic. Provan. United with 10 players now back in defence. Willie McStay's cross. Paul McStay. The interception was from Bannon. McGarvey with Neary, and McAlpin is there under pressure from McGarvey. The referee waving play on as McAlpin has possession. It may have been a free kick, I think, for the challenge by McGarvey had McAlpin not retained possession. There's the United captain, Paul Hegarty. Milne got the touch. McAdam penalised for the challenge on Sturrock. Celtic bench. David Hay, the manager, looking for his first trophy success in his 2 years in charge at Celtic Park. Goff is in the box. Well judged by David Neary. Paul McStay playing it through the middle, inviting Johnston to give chase. Well taken down by Goff as Johnston closed them down. This is Hegarty. Milne trying to get behind McGrain. Not a very athletic clearing header from the Celtic captain. Sturrock. Now Goff. Very tight in the right flank there for United. McGrain with a tackle on Milne. Both sides getting a lot of players back in defence whenever they lose possession. Good Goff. Sturrock going through with Aitken marking him very closely indeed. That was good defending by Roy Aitken.
Good play by the United as well. As you say, Big Roy did really well there. But that's what it's all about. It's not really just the ball that guys up to head. Nice one that Celtic have got to look after for Stirrup.
Willie McStay with the clearance for Celtic. So it's out for the Celtic throw. So no scoring here at Hampden after 20 minutes of the Scottish Cup final. And the same situation at Wembley. Everton 0, Manchester United 0. We'll keep you up to date with all the action there as it happens. Saw some good cup tie football here in the opening quarter of the match, but still no goals. See McGarvey there losing his footing on the greasy surface. Dodd with a layoff for Stirrup. Good play from United again. That's for Bannon. That was well read by Tom McAdam. Positive run from Eamon Bannon, and his tackle ricocheted off Bannon for the Celtic goal kick. There's been some good quality defending, Kenny.
I think it's not only at the back they've been defending, midfield as well. There's not been much, many inches given or none received either. They're both midfield players, midfield lineups on both parties are picking up very tightly and competing very well. And it's the same to be said for the back four, but the back four like they've got out there, you wouldn't expect anything else.
Well, Aitken pushing forward this time, linking up with McGarvey. Provan. Bannon back helping Malpass. Good play from Provan, getting the cross in, but Mary spotted it. Good play from Paul McStay. Here's Murdo MacLeod. MacLeod always anxious to get a shot on target from that range. A lot of dig in both feet from that situation. Paul McStay did particularly well here, making space from that congested midfield, setting it up for MacLeod. The shot much too high. Good header from Dodds. Bannon becoming more involved in that left flank for United, taking on Willie McStay. And a corner kick to United. Well, I'm sure that United fans want to see more of Bannon making those surging runs in the left flank. So Goff and Hegarty join the United attack. Bannon's corner. Hegarty at the far corner of the box. A rather hurried clearance from Roy Aitken. On his weaker side, the left, finding touch. The marking really is very close indeed. Milne did well. Milne again, getting support from Malpass. Bannon. Away from Willie McStay. The cross cut off by McAdam. Malpass lets it run for the United throw. But United certainly doing well in the opening stages of the match. They certainly posed some problems for Celtic. Good header by MacLeod. Here's Barnes. Bit of room to go forward into, and he's got McGarvey ahead. Still Tommy Burns. United have had time to allow the players to funnel back in defence. And the momentum has gone from that Celtic move. McAdam. Breaks from Bannon to McStay. Murray's header. Malpass couldn't collect it. Johnston. Now Willie McStay. Looking for McGarvey in the box. Here's Mud Johnston. Well set up that move by Celtic. The driven ball at McGarvey. A cushion layoff for Johnston. That was promising for a moment, but the United defence still equal to the task. Willie McStay's pass back. So So Celtic beginning the build-up from the back through midfield. Burns getting wide. McGarvey with Goff snapping at his heels. That's a United ball. McAdam turning quickly to win the ball from Sturrock. Good leap by Johnston. He gets up very well indeed against taller defenders. But it's straight through to McAlpine. McGrain kept his eye on the ball. Jim McLean, the United manager, right in the middle of the picture there in the director's box. Gordon Wallace beside him on the left. On McLean's left. McGrain couldn't reach it. Ball skidding quickly off the damp surface. Sturrock screening the ball from McAdam. Good ball from BD to Kirkwood. So Billy Kirkwood going forward, but Aitken again makes the important tackle at the back for Celtic. So the expense of a throw, keeping United in an attacking position. Richard Goff. Milne's header. No flag, the Celtic defenders hoping for an offside decision. Kirkwood to Bannon. Kirkwood again with a cross. It's gone over the goal line, bending back into the top of the crossbar, but some good inventive play on the right from Dundee United. They look very sharp indeed with some of that one-touch football coming forward.
I think Dundee United have got better ideas and more ideas when they come up the park. Celtic seem to be a bit lacking in ideas, and I think the two lads up front for Celtic should stay as far up as they possibly can and give the lads in midfield and to the back a bit more width to play in and a bit more depth as well.
Good header by Johnston. Provan challenging, but Mary wins it. Billy Kirkwood is on the deck around the centre circle area after taking a knock in the head with that high ball. Kirkwood is just getting back to his feet. That's why McAlpine played the ball out, because Kirkwood is clearly in some distress. So some attention now for the United midfield player, Billy Kirkwood. It'll be a throw to Celtic when the match restarts. Kirkwood's a tough player, all right. John Holt would be straightforward replacement for United, but I'm sure they want to keep their substitutes for the later stage of the match, perhaps even for extra time. 5 years in a row we've had no result after 90 minutes in the Scottish Cup final. Provan now on the left for Celtic. Here's Johnston holding off BD. Murdo MacLeod. Kirkwood knocks the ball away. Tommy Barnes. Willie McStay trying to find his brother Willie. Well, he managed it, but by an unorthodox route. Put in by Provan. McGarvey goes down as Hegarty challenges. Appeals for a penalty kick, but that I fancy would have been very soft indeed, and Lefty McGinley was not interested. Well, Celtic's turn of vociferous appeals among the Celtic players for this. Look out again. Hegarty coming across to challenge Frank McGarvey. Well, McGarvey appeared to go down very late. Didn't appear to be much in that, Kenny.
No, I think Frank realised he'd lost it and just tried his hand a wee bit. We're all the same, we'll try that from time to time.
Well, there's a very frank admission from Kenny Dalglish. So half an hour of the 100th Cup final gone. Still no scoring. And United perhaps happier with the opening half hour than Celtic, apart from the fact, of course, that they haven't got that vital opening goal. Richard Goff. Got it coming off McAdam. That's a good ball. McGrain was left by Milne's pace. Wasted ball inside by Milne now. Easily picked up by Aitken. Splendid tackle by Goff on Dalton. And Stark is offside. Celtic defence pushing out. Still no scoring incidentally at Wembley between Everton and Manchester United. Any preferences there, Kenny?
Any predictions?
Any preferences for Everton or Manchester United?
It's still going to be us anyway, is it? I think the midweek match that Everton had will take a little bit out of them. I think Manchester United must be quite happy with everything it's just now.
Same position here at Hampden. 0-0 and Celtic on the attack. Here's Paul McStay. Running straight into Richard Goff. Done well this afternoon, Richard Goff in defence for United. The rain still falling heavily. The tackle this time from Dodds. Johnston play off, there's McGarvey. Stopped by Malpass. Mo Johnston's on the deck on the 18-yard line. Aitken was impeded by Milne as he came inside. That's a free kick to Celtic. And there may be a hold-up now because Mo Johnston is on his feet but looks not at all happy over in the far corner of the box as Aitken comes forward. That's Kirkwood. Now Beattie looking for support, holding play up. Good control from Sturrock. Ralph Milne, a lot of space on the right for United. Good tackle by McGrain. Very sharp indeed. Hopeful ball in by Kirkwood, taken by Paul McStay, and that pass releasing Davie Provan, puts pressure on the United defence. Johnston appears to have recovered from that knock. And good defending by Neri, very calm indeed in a crisis. Protesting about the attentions of McGarvey on McAlpine, and the free kick's been given.
It's a shame really neither goalkeepers had a save to make because the atmosphere and the noise both sets of fans are making are tremendous. But I mean it's still a great occasion, and despite the fact that there's not been a fair amount of goal mouth incidents, I think I'm really enjoying it anyway, and I'm sure most of the people out there are.
Yes, a very competitive cup final. Dodds going up with Aitken. Fine header by MacLeod. Paul McStay now has room to create something for Celtic. Provan hugging that right touch line, taking on Malpass. McGarvey near post. He was well marked by Neri. Malpass very determined, but Provan got that incorrectly. The throw's been taken. McGarvey tangling again with Neri. Willie McStay. Wasted cross by the Celtic fullback. He's very willing indeed to support the attack, Willie McStay. But the final pass on that occasion left a lot to be desired. Little nudge there by Sturrock on McAdam. Roy Aitken with the free kick. Burns has stayed deep. Immediately challenged by Kirkwood. Australia United are so tough to beat in midfield. They get these midfield men into defending positions very quickly indeed. Cannon to Dodds. The turn was well read by Willie McStay, and Dodds was enticed into that challenge, which gave the free kick to Celtic. Provan coming inside, brought down by Dodds. Very good positive wing play by Davie Provan. Well, this can make the difference between victory and defeat, this kind of wing play. Provan coming inside, well pass, he's brought down by Dodds. And The free kick to be taken by Provan. Murray's overhead clearance picked up by McGarvey. Very sure-footed David Murray. Hasn't missed many tackles this afternoon. Aitken coming to support the midfield. 1-2 with Murdo MacLeod. The turn pass wasn't good enough. And McAdam's ball forward goes through to McAlpine. This space now for Bannon. A chance to attack Willie McStay. And Murdo MacLeod providing the help. Well, the decision goes to United. MacLeod helping Willie McStay as he was exposed to the pace of Bannon. Bannon again comes off Willie McStay for a United corner kick. United certainly looking very menacing when Bannon is in full flight on the left flank. United supporters must be growing in hope, I think. Here's Bannon. Checking inside Provan. Paul Hegarty. Back it comes to BD. Well, a fine shooting chance. Passed up by BD. Well, Aitken staying back to keep United onside, but the pressure is off the Celtic defence. Stuart BD missing another good shooting chance at the edge of the box. Brilliantly set up by Bannon and Paul Hegarty.
I think Stuart Beattie had one eye on Paul McStay there. He's a empty header.
Maurice header. Beattie going in behind Burns, bundling the Celtic man to the deck. Willie McStay. Johnston going wide, the ball skidding away from him for the goal kick. Maurice Johnston has a shake of the head there. Some frustration, I've no doubt. He must be feeling at the lack of service.
I don't think the service has been very good to the front two of Celtic, but I think at the same time the two lads themselves have got to make themselves available for the service.
Kirkwood's control wasn't good enough. Johnston stepped in. This is Burns now for Celtic. BD rescued the situation for United. Stirrup breaking on the right. Milne arriving on his outside. He's a decoy. Stirrup playing it in towards Dodds. Now Richard Goff. Milne. It's a good cross to Davie Dodds. And some splendid defending there by Tom McAdam. Well, that was a great move from United. Some excellent football. McGrain taken very late indeed by Kirkwood. McGrain's in trouble. His left ankle took the full brunt of that late challenge from Kirkwood. And referee McGinley will administer the first booking of the match. Well, that was a dreadful tackle by Kirkwood. Danny McGrain still in bad shape, and I think Billy Kirkwood clearly has no complaints. But that was a fine chance, Kenny, for Dundee United. A good cross from Ralph Milne. Dodge coming in. That's great defending by McAdam.
For the tackle that followed it, I mean, that was something else. The tackle that followed it. So, if Danny McGrain's down wanting some treatment, he must be feeling it, I'll tell you. Even at his age.
Yes, McGrain certainly not known for any play acting in an injury situation. He really does appear to be in a lot of trouble. Now let's hope there's no question of any of the Celtic men thinking in terms of reprisals. The quality of the match would certainly suffer. But McGrain fit to resume. I suppose in the mid-30s these knocks take a little bit longer to recover from. So 5 minutes of the first half left. Dundee United 0, Celtic 0. Very tense, competitive match still in progress. Burns going forward. United having plenty of cover and depth. And the other major final at Wembley, still goalless between Everton and Manchester United. That's Kirkwood. Beattie stopped by McAdam, but there's David Odds for United. Well-timed tackle by McStay, but Malpass was supporting. Forward pass, not very accurate, looking for Bannon on the left. Malpass is clearance, goes out for the throw to Celtic. And still with 41 minutes of the match gone, neither goalkeeper called upon to make any direct saves. There have been some good attacks, but the defending has also been of a high quality, and there's another example as Mary wins it from Paul McStay. Aitken Terror. Provan. Picked up easily by Hegarty. Here's Kirkwood. Looking for Sturrock through the middle. That's well read by McAdam. Murdo MacLeod. Provan has had to come very deep indeed to find some space. Mary first to the ball ahead of Johnston. There lapse in control from Paul McStay. So the match in these closing minutes of the first half. A time in the game when a goal could be crucial. It could make a vital difference to the run of the game. Jim McGrain looking impassive in the director's box, the United manager. And I'm sure you'll have plenty to say at half-time. And this cue from Beattie. But he saved the situation himself with that good header back to McAlpine. And here's Richard Gough for United. God's beaten by Aitken. Aiken's missed nothing through the middle at all for Celtic this afternoon. Dodge winning it back to United. Trying to use the pace of Milne. And he had enough to get there in front of Aitken. And Aitken is in trouble with referee McGinley. Now Milne's tremendous pace in evidence in this incident. Just watch how he takes off here. Now Aitken is no slouch himself, but Milne was going to win this race. Tremendous acceleration. Aitken coming across. Milne got a touch to the ball first, and Aitken came in late, but I couldn't really see any malice in the challenge. Well, Aitken wasn't booked. The referee had a word with him. But Ralph Milne is off the field now getting treatment. The referee insisting that the game goes on. So Eamon Bannon will take the free kick. Gough is in the box. Hegarty stayed back this time. Kirkwood. Good turn from Gough, but the ball again gathering pace off the surface, skidding away from him. So Celtic throw. Half time fast approaching. 0-0 still at Wembley. Gough's header. There's Beattie. Head flick on to Sturrock from Dodds. That's a fine tackle from McGrain. There's Bannon. And Sturrock was offside in any event. But Danny McGrain looking very sharp still, Kenny.
Yeah, I don't think he's 35. I think he's been telling lies about his age there. He's recovered well enough from a knock as well, so he seems to go alright. He'll be out there in the second half, I would imagine. But I think with the passing, I think that they need to play the ball along the floor a bit more. As soon as you put it up in the air, it bounces and it's off.
So the final minutes of the first half. Corner's goal kick. Still in the air of Stuart Beattie for the throw. We're into time added on for stoppages. Half-time at Wembley, it's 0-0 there. And the closing seconds now, the first half here at Hampden. The Celtic go forward. Davie stopping McGarvey. And Bonner with lots of time to come out and send the ball forward to Aitken. United not pushing players on top of the back four for Celtic, and there goes the half-time whistle. The scoreline: Dundee United 0, Celtic 0. United perhaps with a slight edge on the balance of play in the first half. Don't go away, we'll be right back with Arthur Munford, our studio guest.
Just before the final, his brother Tom, playing for Partick Thistle, rushed up to the referee and pleaded, "You can't book him, you missed the final, go and book me instead." But the referee unfortunately didn't heed his plea. It is nice to note, by the way, that both sets of players, before they came out to play this game, autographed a ball which will be auctioned for the Bradford Fund down in Bradford. Mr. McGinley about to start the second half. On we go. 45 minutes left and the possibility of extra time, of course. Aitken shouting for everybody to get out of the way. Burns. That's right beyond David Neary. Johnston. Well, initially I thought that Malthus may have been impeding him, but the referee judges he was pulling away, and therefore it's a free kick. Of Willie McStay, Paul McStay, David Neary. Beattie, looking a bit lethargic and makes up for it. Maurice Malthus, who was studying for a degree in commercial or business studies. There he is. Hegarty did wisely, and look at that. It's good organisation, isn't it? Hegarty out of that central position, and he slips it back to Billy Kirkwood there. Sturrock, Dodds, Aitken, Beattie, Mill. Oh. The dummy was on, but there was nobody behind him. Johnston, superb little turn. Here's Burns inside. Oh, referee judged that to be illegal. I say that the early runs there, Billy, that Celtic have had, they seem to just have a bit more room than they did in the first half.
Yeah, so just thinking that myself, actually. I mean, that's really the first time we've seen Maurice Johnston get balls played into him and turn the defender. At the end of the day, it came to nothing, but at least he posed a threat for a spell.
Oh, here's a great run forward by Provan. Now look how finely that pass back was judged. I mean, he wasn't going to pressurise the goalkeeper by putting it near the goal. He just put it in that little corner there. It's high quality defending. No offside. Still in play. Oh, a bit unfortunate for McGarvey. Here's Dodds. Looking at the ground very quickly as if the trouble might have been there. Said just before half-time, I've enjoyed the game, I've been absorbed by it. Not brilliant, but I've been absorbed, but it's been minus a brilliant save by a goalkeeper. McStay, a little bit too much. And no question that no matter how this game ultimately develops, United have played as well as Celtic in terms of the conditions and atmosphere. Oh, there's Sturrock. Well, but too much as to whether he attempted a little dummy or whether it was just lack of control. Richard Goff to take this. There's Sturrock again and pushed. Promptly put down. McAdam and the free kick to United. Well, Rob Bowman, I think, watched to take this. There's got Goff up there. Hegarty. It's aimed for Hegarty. McAdam winning in the air. Very few people beat McAdam, as I say, and a push there by Hegarty. Long remember Paul Hegarty's magnificent clearance running full pelt back into his net in Brennan. One of the greatest clearances I've ever seen. A little bit of mountaineering. Aitken wanting to come forward. One of his charges, McStay. No. United actually had 10 men in the box there when McStay picked that up. Let's press my quickly across the penalty area. We've backtracked massively. There's the man who does the shouting in that area, like Roy Aitken. And here's Tommy Burns. 6 minutes gone. Still no scoring, and the referee will have to sort this tangle out. He's asking for the corner kick to be retaken. Big powerful men in there. Richard Goff, McAdam, Dodds, almost dwarfing Malpass. Johnston was almost there. Beattie was right on top of him. McGrain. Goff. McStay threatening. Had to play that obvious ball eventually. That was Ralph Milne back there. Ralph Milne, something of a surprise, by the way, scored many vital goals for his club, but he hasn't found a target in 16 appearances in the Scottish Cup, as compared to scoring 13 goals in Europe. Would you believe? Latish free kick. Well, Archie Knox seems to be just a slightly more haphazard opening to this half.
Maybe so, but it's much more open. Both teams and both sets of players are getting a bit more time on the ball. Not as frantic as it was in the first half, and this will maybe lead to something a bit better here.
Danny McGrain doesn't want to make it better for United there. Kept his eye on that very closely. There's Danny. He's lost all his razors. Johnston. Oops. Right off it. Was hard, yes, free kick. That the response of the Dundee United supporters. That's floated in well. Great clearance again by McAdam. That's outstanding. Yeah. Banner. Here's Malpass. Should have done that better. David Dodds. There's a shot, he scored. BD has scored for Dundee United. The deadlock is broken. 9 minutes of that second half gone, and there is an eruption of joy under that enclosure. What a clever goal that was, and David Dodds was right at the basis of it. Brilliantly skilled play initially, then swept it across, and BD side-footing it and angling it all in the one. 1-0 for United. Well, that suddenly came, not surprisingly, but the suddenness of the move by Dodds way back, totally deceiving Roy Aitken. Here's Billy Kirkwood. He has lots of space. So has Ralph Milne. Milne can't keep it in, Don. It was a bad ball by Kirkwood, though. An uneven ball. Now watch this. Isn't that superb, the way he went round Aitken, and he was pressurised, and that's very good finishing. McStay. Plunge. David Provan. Lots a bit of pushing there in the penalty area. Bannon swept it round well. Roy Aitken stuck in the chase. Well, Billy McNeil, where stands Celtic now?
Yeah, well, they've now got it all to do, Archie. They've gone to go behind, and really it was just a little bit of slack casual defensive work early on, but all credit to David Dodds, who worked hard and kept his nerve and put a good ball in, and the lad in BD came in and finished it well. The Celtic have got it all to do now.
Well, they were behind against Aberdeen last year, of course. The game went to extra time because he fought to the final whistle and got their equaliser. And I expect that the fight will last to the very end again as McGarvey battles away. No free kick. Goal kick. Well, Archie Knox, would you give a lot of the credit for that goal to David Dodds?
Well, there's no question about that. He was put under tremendous pressure from Roy Aitken there and managed to turn him and lay the ball in for Beattie, who produced an absolutely brilliant finish.
Walter Smith, by the way, Archie Knox, you may be interested in this. Walter Smith came out of his dugout like Superman, took off.
Well,
surprisingly.
There's no way that Walter Smith is ever Superman, so it must have been somebody else you were seeing, actually.
Goff. Now Milne. Yes, the referee indicates it is a throw. McLeod. Bannon. Malpass comes forward and does very well, driving in. McLeod goes with him. Bannon. And the referee has stopped the play, said that was an illegal tackle on Maurice Malpass. It's a free kick. It's wide, and it's now with Ralph Milne. Kirkwood. And all these hard-working players
Billy Kirkwood's, the Malpasses, the Beanies in midfield, David Dodds. Right off the back of Sturrock's head, but it's United's ball. Well, I think this man could play with one boot. Is that a Sheepshank? Sturrock. Oh, hasty, panicky looking cross there by Billy Kirkwood. Absolutely no need for him to commit himself, sir. That's the scoreline. 15 minutes of the second half gone. Bill. High over again. Tommy Burns. Goff. Dreadful pass by Burns. Celtic looks slightly shocked at the moment. Kirkwood. Bannon. Sturrock. There's Dodds. Now Richard Goff. Brilliantly taken by McStay. Using the chest and the swivel and away it went to safety. The United supporters want me to give the score. I can tell them it's 1-0. They're playing with confidence. Murdo MacLeod doesn't get there. I was talking about this tireless energy of the hard workers, and that was evidence of it there. Billy Kirkwood stepping in a defensive position. And a bad ball to Frank McGarvey. Almost did a Davie Dodds there. Now we have Bill. Pushed him too far. Willie McStay. Now too much there by Danny McGrain. McStay got it late. Willie, that is. Here's McGrain. Offside, McGarvey. Well, Billy, I heard you talking about the introduction of Brian McClair. I think it's almost inevitable, isn't it?
I think it's got to happen, Archie, yes. At the moment, you know, Celtic look a team that need a little bit of inspiration. Now, at the moment, it's difficult to see where that's going to come from. Even the support, which is, to me is the best support in the business, they've gone just a little bit quiet. They're looking for something, and I think the Celtic team are looking for inspiration. But at the moment, really, to be fair to Dundee United, they're not going to allow Celtic any quarter at all.
Well, I think that's right. I mean, I expected a quick retort by Celtic, and it's simply not developed. Early days yet. And if you're a United supporter, manager, player, agonisingly long stretch of the game to go yet, but here is Milne. Bit hasty, David Dodds was almost in. It's a corner kick. Good move by United. I thought he was slightly hasty. Ralph Milne with that. However, they get the corner. Bannon making that play originally. There's Milne. King does very quickly, winning the corner. Well, that's very wide indeed. McAdam, MacLeod, Burns will go for it. No chance of getting it. Well, I think Daniel McGrain thought that was offside. It's not. MacLeod. Having stay. Deft little pass. Now look who is back there defending. David Dodds on the whole end of the field to get back there. There goes Milne and Sturrock. That's a neat pass. It's actually Billy Kirkwood president. Bit of a wrestling match. McGarvey doesn't like it. And here is the substitution. Brian McClare coming on. Anxious McClare to get on. Signed for Celtic by Willie McNeil, but never actually played under him. Went to the Golden Boots Award in Paris as Scotland's top goal scorer for last season. And the United fans will remember his outstanding solo goal against the Tannadice men earlier this season when he ran the full length of Celtic Park, possibly one of the goals of the season. Very useful ball. MacLeod, stay. Might let fly, he does. That's all up top. I wonder if we could ask Billy before I come back to Archie, having a look at Paul McStay again. You haven't seen him all that often recently, Billy. Notice any changes in him?
No, I think the one thing about Paul, he's always had this maturity about him, Archie, and we possibly tend to expect far too much of him. We still got to appreciate, however talented he is, he's still learning the game a bit. He's found it difficult today, as any good quality player would, with close attention, and he hasn't had the same impact as you would hope. But he's showed little instances over the last few minutes that maybe the game's going to turn his way.
And the free kick to Celtic. That's the header in a weak one. Both McAdam and Aitken had come forward. And the big men there, of course, very difficult to beat, the Richard Goffs, etc. We've gone 21 minutes now. There's Goff. Good covering up by McAdam. He saw that coming a mile away. Didi. If he does nothing else, will be remembered for that goal. And there's Provan coming in. There's Hamish McAlpin. Has seen him put another goal in that, of course. Billy Kirkwood. Dodds. Ismail. Just eluding McGrain and no more. And I think the tackle is considered by the referee to be rather late. Goff, Stoddard, and the referee says that was a dive. What a bit to see that one again. I mean, Mr. McGinley was almost breathing down the incident's neck, as it were, and he indicated a dive. Celtic on the counter-attack. There's Brian McClare getting his first touch of the ball as a corner kick. Well, here it is. Well, difficult to tell from that angle. I think a jury would say not guilty. It's a curling ball, and that's David Dodd again. McAlpin and Nick Fall in any case. Now, what do you make of this combining of defenders and the interchange? Because that was Dodd's back again, almost on his goal line. Archie Knox, Dundee United, they have been under pressure, but like this, if you just watch us first, look at Dodds. And watch this pressure here, and according to the referee, there was a foul. I'm just saying, Archie, that United are very well organised, aren't they?
Oh well, defensively they're as good as any team in the country, and in this position a goal up, Celtic are going to find it exceptionally hard to get back in the game. However, with the introduction of Brian McClare, and I think in my own opinion playing in probably his best position, then they would look to him to make some runs or some tailing runs with the ball.
By the way, I thought it was very, very narrow, that offside decision, just as we're talking, Archie. As McStay, Richard Goff has it. Milne wanted to go through the player. And in this last very important section of the game, with just over 20 minutes remaining, players like Hegarty and Neary will earn their wages. Milne, offside. Referee waves play on them, but Sturrock was certainly offside. Johnston. Well, that's what I meant about Hegarty. Proving his salt. Kirkwood looks slightly tired there. And McGrain comes forward. Now, Johnston. McStay. There's Danny McGrain. Well, Billy, this has been one of the weaknesses of Danny's play, has it not? He's never been able to finish.
Well, he's not the greatest finisher in the world, but he's made up for that in other departments, obviously, Archie. The one interesting aspect of the game just now, I think this is the trickiest patch for Dundee United yet, and I think this is when their discipline and their ability is going to be sorely tested. Because Celtic are going to have a go, and they look as though they could create a problem too.
Well, they're coming more into the game. Suddenly found the edge again and the purpose. That's one man who will never give up. Playing away tirelessly. He's underrated by certain players. Now the record for a transfer fee, bringing a player to Scotland when he signed from Liverpool for $250,000 in March 1980. That year he came, by the way, to Parkhead. It was the only year he's won a Cup Winners' medal. That's offside. Here's McLeod, the very man that Archie Knox was talking about, in his best position, just behind the strikers, coming forward, and having brought him up. Danny McGrain again. Well, he certainly tried to prove me wrong. Well, that was a very good finish. He kept it down, took a player on first, and he did everything right. There wasn't much wrong with that at all. Well, somebody's shin guards have been brought to the line. I didn't quite catch who it was. There it is. Looks like a smoke canister, but it might be a smoke canister. There's Dodds. Played it out. Look at the two of them there. Oh. Here's Billy Kirkwood. There will be a chip. There's Dodds. Sturrock and Bonner's there. Just a kind of slow motion look about that. The two players have got three on the right. Could hardly believe the latitude they got, outnumbering the defender. Clare and Malpo steps in. Away goes McStay. Takes his eye right off it. There by Roy Aitken to Dodds. McStay coming back, backtracking very quickly. Free kick to Celtic. Archie Knox, I'm getting the message that Celtic are going to bring O'Leary on now. What do you think of that?
Well, I really don't know where, with being a defender, then it might mean that Roy Aitken's going to push into the middle of the park, and that might be the spur that Celtic need at this stage, because they certainly need something. As the game goes on and you come to the latter stages, then players are going to tire, and somebody like Roy Aitken coming into the middle of the park, who is somebody that will most certainly keep going for the entire 90 minutes, then might be just the inspiration that Celtic need.
Agree with that, Billy?
Yeah, Yeah, I think we've got to take a chance now.
And Willie McStay is coming off, by the way.
Yeah, sometimes the manager's got to go unpopular, but it's the last cast of the dice for David Hayes. He's going to put O'Leary in the back and push Roy Aitken forward. Hope that his appetite.
And there goes Aitken just flashing across the picture, Billy, as you spoke. Yeah.
You know, it's one of these things that he's got to try something. He's gambling now with 15 minutes to go.
Yes, he wants to disturb this United defence, which is getting more and more confident. And there's O'Leary, first touch. No, that has gone out, I think. Well, I must say, I agree with you, Billy, that Celtic about 10 minutes ago began to look very good. Now suddenly they've gone to pieces again slightly.
Well, the game's got a bit ragged. They've not had any immediate success, actually, so you start to panic just a little bit. But they'll still have a go.
Now, McLeod. In slides Neri, and that is offside against David Dodds. And we have exactly 15 minutes of this cup final left, of the normal time left. Dodds, tangle of legs. Go to United. Johnston got up for the big man. Away by Goff. Off Murdo MacLeod has been quite-ish in this last quarter, when obviously Celtic would want the likes of him to be driving forward due to his strength and his great shooting ability. And Hamish McCaffrey really hasn't been tested. Murdo MacLeod not at all happy about that. Starrock on the turn. Oh, he did very well, and I noticed he was rather unsighted from the goal. I thought the best thing to do is flip it round. He did well. Now McGarvey. It's a reverse pass, and Aitken is up there, as I said. Here's the shot I expected. Free kick, and this could be very interesting. Now, I've seen Celtic score from free kicks, if not absolutely directly, then from some of the intricate moves that Provan and MacLeod have worked out together. That's a free kick. There's Hamish McAlpin. Only twice in the history of the Scottish Cup have goals been scored direct from a free kick. Is this a bit of history? It is! David Provan, the equaliser. Minutes of the second half gone, and only the third direct free kick scored in the history of this competition. And they don't care about the history book just now. The reality of the present is that Provan, with one kick, has brought Celtic back into this game when they looked as if they were dying on the feet. A superbly struck free kick. Away it went, and McAlpin couldn't possibly get near that. Got a big deal.
Yeah, well, they were looking for inspiration, actually. They've got it now. This is what they wanted. This is what they needed. They've got the response on the Terracing as well. I think Dundee United are in for a very, very hectic last 12 minutes or so.
Well, I don't know why they want to hide themselves. Smoke has become very popular. Aitken goes up. That's round the side. Richard Goff goes in. And here's Murdo. The reverse one, but mopped up by Celtic. Low line, wide it looks like now. And there degree of urgency. There's Johnston, takes his eye off it, and out comes McAlpin. And Dundee United remain admirably cool. Of the game left. There's Aitken wanting it, charges forward. Sizing people. But McLeod and Johnson, the opportunity to sweep it in. Gone. Trying to slow things down. That was a distinct miss. Good goalkeeping, but I would have thought he'd been able to chip on or put it to the side. Schwartzes went right through. Deep touch there. There's McGarvey. Well, what was a difficult angle, McAdam did rather well. McGrain. There's Johnston. And United are on the right. Fibre, that skill in their character that Willie McStay was alluding to, has now really been put under strain and stress. That's a near post one. There's a header again right across goal. Well, Archie, very briefly, do you think United can hold out like this?
Well, they're going to be in for a torrid last 5 minutes. It's amazing what a goal can do for a team. Tired legs have suddenly become fresh legs again, and United, having looked in control up until that goal, are suddenly going through the mill now, and it's going to be very difficult for them to maybe hold out for this last 5 minutes.
Yes, stop. To Holt, to Milne. Got to bring it under control, and McGrain finding that inspiration again, and considers also that you got to throw in. Well, you can't win everything. He did collar Milne, which was the most important thing. Here's Sturrock. There's nobody there in the middle for United. There's Provan, but Holt picks it up very well indeed. Bannon to dodge, through to Sturrock, and he can't get there. Neat little piece of interpassing by United. But Celtic read it very quickly. Well, you can hear the Celtic supporters now. Stretching the larynxes a bit after a very subdued spell, as Billy said, near the middle of the second half. Well, Danny McGrain just got rid of that and no more. Oh, Celtic with defence deciding to be suicidal. Billy Kirkwood. There goes Milne, and he dabs it ahead too quickly. Oh, he's all right. Man of iron. These cup finals have a habit of going to extra time. Looked like a push, no. There's McClare. McGarvey. Hegarty. Here's Aitken. Good drifting ball, it's there, McGarvey. 2-1. stunned United, but they must try and fight back now. There's the hero, Frank McGarvey. As I said, cost Celtic $250,000. He's been in and out of the side, but has always been, in my books, a very useful player indeed. I think it's a free kick. No, it's a throw. Throw to United. So precious little time for them to save this. Ball was up and David Dodge was almost in there. There's Upland again, and O'Leary has done brilliantly in the space of 10 seconds. The big Irishman doing a McAdam almost. Great defensive work. But just up he went there for this. And right on the spot to head it off. Ball tries to go in. McLeod doesn't clear it well. Here's Milne. Oh, I don't think Sturrock went for that. Stunned looking ball stop. Hampden Park. Here's Johnston going in, suddenly got some room. And that's a late tackle. Quickly taken, Provan. Right to the line, cuts it back. Well read though by Malthus. Still Celtic though. McAdam settles for the goal kick, and I wonder if he realises that there are 2 minutes left. There's hardly room to breathe in there, let alone dance and sing. John Holtz, Aitken, hard and good as ever. There's a great shot by Malthus. Just floated away at the last. As good a shot as we've had all afternoon, drifting away. Amazing transformation in the second half. And there is Malthus with that forlorn gesture of much time is left. I think in a minute, Celtic a minute away from winning the 100th Scottish Cup final. After what we've seen, almost anything can happen. Ralph Milne will get the corner out of it. Maybe the last concrete chance that United have of saving this game, and they're committing everybody. Only Malthus in the centre circle, McAlpin at the back. Brannan wants it. United trying to fight hard. It's an up and under, and Bonner should win that one. Referee saying to Bonner he's watching the time. We're edging towards the conclusion of this historic game. Look at McAlpin, he's away out, and he'll get there. McAlpin again, and this time safely to his hands. It will be injury time. How long, I'm not sure. And there is Goff. Really got to throw everything into it now. Balls in the Celtic crowd, and they may take some time to come back, in fact. Well, dropped it. Well into injury time. 30 seconds into it. Holt. Startup. No, can't get it. And there it goes. David Hay, after 2 years, has won his first trophy. And don't they realise it? Oh, the jubilations down in that bench a minute ago. David Hay was swamped by his players. There he is. He survived, and you know, he really is one of the gentlemen in the sport. Calm, sometimes a little bit tense and calm, but nevertheless, he has steered Celtic to this historic victory. Paul McStay in there, the man who was substituted, and a team that seemed out of it at a significant period in that second half, fighting back, and there's no question but that the man who changed the whole tide was Davie Provan with that one kick. I somehow get the feeling if that hadn't come, that break that would have been talked about, then things might have been very difficult indeed. Look at this. There is no greater feeling, I suppose, that mixture of relief and exhilaration and triumph. Oh, I think Frank McGarvey's almost in tears. Supporters who probably will not leave Hampden Park for some time, and I would imagine the Celtic players have forgotten, I think, that they've got to go and get a cup. They're waiting a long time for this, and we've got Davie here.
Davie, what a tremendous game, but he must have been worried a little bit. A wee bit, you know, to be honest with you, but 2 great goals to win the cup. In front of the greatest fans in the world. Did you think in the first half that things were going your way? That was a tight game, and we were worried the fact United get the first goal. Did that unsettle your rhythm, do you think? For a wee spell there, but fortunately the guys showed all the character of the world be coming back, and I'm pleased to see them getting up first today instead of second. Congratulations, thank you, David.
And that was Rival Alderson speaking to David Hay. Now, who's he going to shake hands with? I think one of his handicap supporters. Danny McGrain received the Scottish Cup. The 5th time he's been in a cup-winning side. The man who scored that brilliant free kick, as I said, only 3 free kicks, direct free kicks scored. Another 2 by Morton. And that's not to me, that's to the cameraman. Pearson really come on and played his part near the end. Maurice Johnston. And each one greeted in a ritualistic way by the supporters. Tom McAdam, of whom high praise was given in that first half for a brilliant clearance. Brian McLeod itself, back corner. As I said, his twin brother was playing in the Irish Cup in Galway a few weeks back. And Tommy Blunt. And we have Danny McGrain. Let's talk to Danny down there.
Danny McGrain, congratulations on winning yet another cup. Did you think it was always going to come to Celtic Park?
Before the game, yes. During the game, yes. The 1-0, I'm very confident. The boys done terrific. The boys done tremendously well. The support are terrific.
Tremendous goals too.
Great. I wish I could remember them. Having a hand that quick. 2 goals, I didn't care how they went in. They went in. And the cups of Parkhead.
Congratulations again.
Thank you.
Well, Danny can hardly find breath, but he will now to go down and greet that support that he was talking about. First of all, I think going to the photographers wonderful time. In they go for that team photograph. Celtic have played in the 43rd final and have now won the cup 27 times. And down they go to their support. Massed in serried ranks. They get 2 medals today, by the way. They get the Cup Winners' Medal and they get the special 100th Cup Medal. Oh. One of the cameramen almost destroyed himself. And down they go, and they're allowed a lap of honour at their own end, where their own supporters are. I think they will stay on for some time. By the way, the man of the match, the Mr. Superfit Award, has gone, not surprisingly, to Roy Aitken. That vital switch that Davie Hay made, how crucial it was, pushing David Hay, pushing Roy Aitken forward, putting Pierce O'Leary at the back and taking always a popular player, Paul McStay off. It was a bit of a gamble. It paid off, and he's like a 12-year-old again. A big 12-year-old, I may say. Who's that? It's McGarvey. Supporter. No, I think it may be Maurice Johnston going across. The figure it suddenly went across to the, well, he's almost climbed into the crowd. There he is. There he is. Top of the picture. Just raise the camera a little. There he is. That was Maurice Johnston. The police wisely getting him away from the supporters. And we have Davie Provan. Right, Davie, talk to us.
Davie, what a tremendous goal. Have you been practicing that?
Yeah, I've been practicing them all week actually, but sometimes they go in, sometimes they don't, and today, well, the big man up there just smiled on us.
There was a wee bit of a gap just under the angle that it went in. It was perfectly positioned.
Well, I aimed for just outside the post, and usually the ball will come in a bit. It came in a yard and that was enough.
Did you think earlier in the game that it was going your way?
Half time I thought it was even Steven. When United went ahead, obviously we had an awful lot to do. Once we got the equaliser, I thought it was only going to be one winners, and that was us.
In terms of the big man at the heart of the defence, Roy, congratulations. How did you think it was going?
I thought when it went 1-0, they'd be a very hard team to break down. They're very good when they go ahead, they sit back, they kill the game. But to be fair to our boys, we kept at it. What a goal we did, what a goal we Frank McGarvey. But that's what it's all about. Look around the stadium. That's what it means to win this cup for Celtic. They punt us out here.
And never have quite a word been spoken, and there's Davie Hay with the Scottish Cup. I think he'll have a few drams out of that tonight, and he deserves it. He's been under strain. The Celtic supporters don't like to go too long without winning something, and well, he felt at times, I think, that he was living in borrowed time, but now that confirms him as a successful Celtic manager, and these supporters utterly delighted. They've come from all over. You heard what Roy Aitken said about them. They're an integral part of the Celtic success. Down below us is still hugging and kissing each other. In a way, you feel that Celtic can hardly believe it, having been, and I think that the players pointed that out, 1-0 behind against a highly talented and drilled side, well organised, and then suddenly that amazing goal, and then the winner. An incredible climax for this match, and that is a very nice gesture there. Handicapped supporters down right underneath us in that special section, which was huge. tune-out, especially a couple of years ago. Well, they'll remember that for a long time. There's a little boy in blue funneling Davies. He must be in a tolerant mood. And he'll take time to turn and shake hands and autograph, and I wonder if the nerves are so intact that they can sign autographs. Well, they played their part, didn't they? They made a lot of noise, they were colourful, they were vociferous, they made the cup final with the support for Celtic. So did the Dundee United supporters as well, but outnumbered today quite clearly. And just above them in the studio to summarise the whole afternoon and that amazing climax, Dougie Donnelly with Willie McNeil.
There's great scenes of delight and jubilation among the Celtic support. Tinged, I would think, gentlemen, with a little bit of relief, because halfway through that second half, Celtic didn't look like finding the inspiration which finally came, did they, Billy?
Well, to me it was a real cup final, Dougie. I think there's moments of magic in cup final. We saw two moments of magic really tonight.
Goals,
yeah, because let's be honest, Dundee United at 1-0 looked a better side, looked much more composed, and Celtic was searching for inspiration. They got it in the shape of Davie Provan's tremendous free kick, tremendous. But I doubt very much if we'll see a better goal than the second one. Yeah. Great run from Roy Aitken, tremendous early cross, and a great header from McGarvey.
It was almost parallel with the ground when he put the ball in the net, wasn't he? It was
I thought it was a great goal. But to me, it was the old kids' school, the old kids' comics. It was the stuff that cup finals are made of, and there was memories there for everyone. Delighted, obviously, I was for the players, but more delighted for David Hay and the supporters. They probably suffered just that little bit more, and it was good to see that.
David's delight was obvious there, wasn't it? Actually, I think we've got to spare a few thoughts for United, because they really did look very comfortable halfway through the second half. They were sticking the ball about, and they looked as if they were going to hold on and win the cup for the first time, didn't they?
Well, it certainly looked like that, and I think they'll maybe be regretting it a bit themselves that they didn't really push home the advantage when they were a goal up at that stage, and push forward to maybe look for another one. But all credit to Celtic fighting back. When the changing point in the game for me was when Roy Aitken goes into the middle of the park, and there was no way that he was going to surrender anything at all, and obviously he gets his just reward by producing the cross for the winning goal.
That's right. I think for me, probably Roy Aitken is man of the match. Would you either of you agree with that? Because there were a lot of great performances out there, Billy?
Well, I mean, he was superb as a defender today. And really, probably his enthusiasm and appetite changed the game very much in Celtic's favour. Roy's an unbelievable character. He wouldn't accept defeat very easily. He's had disappointments in cup finals last season, Dougie, so I think he set out to make up for it tonight. I don't think anybody could argue against him.